One player just rejected the biggest contract offer in NHL history. Think about that for a second. 8 years, $128 million. A deal that would have shattered records and set the market for every superstar to follow. And he said no. That player is Kirill Kaprizov, the heartbeat of the Minnesota Wild, the winger who dragged an average roster into relevance, and the man who now holds the future of an entire franchise in his hands. What happens over the next few weeks could decide not just where Kaprizov plays, but whether the Wild will spend the next decade chasing glory or sinking back into obscurity. This isn't just another contract negotiation. This is a tug of war between one of the league's most electrifying stars and a team that knows it cannot survive without him. So let's break down how we got here, why Kaprizov has all the leverage, and what this decision means for the Wild's future. When news first broke of Minnesota's monster proposal, jaws dropped across the hockey world. An 8-year pact worth $128 million. That's $16 million per season, enough to leapfrog Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and Nathan MacKinnon as the richest annual contract in NHL history. For years, the Wild were seen as a mid-market franchise that couldn't spend like the heavyweights. And yet, here they were, opening the vault for their Russian superstar. Minnesota didn't just want to lock him up. They wanted to make a statement. This is our guy, and we'll pay whatever it takes to keep him. But then came the twist. Kaprizov's camp said no. Suddenly, a deal that was supposed to end speculation only poured gasoline on the fire. Was it greed? Was it strategy? Or was there something deeper going on between Kaprizov and the Wild's front office? That rejection changed everything. It turned a straightforward extension into the biggest storyline of the offseason and forced fans to confront a terrifying possibility. What if Kaprizov doesn't want to be in Minnesota at all? Here's the thing, most players don't get to say no to that kind of money, but Kaprizov isn't like most players. Since arriving in Minnesota, he's been nothing short of a revelation, a Calder Trophy winner, a consistent point-per-game threat, a winger who can dominate shifts the way only a handful of players in the world can. He's not just a star, he's the star, and thanks to timing, the landscape is tilted entirely in his favor. The NHL's salary cap, flat for years during the pandemic, is finally rising. Teams are flush with cash. Superstars like Austin Matthews have already signed shorter deals to maximize future earnings, and Kaprizov, still in his prime, can do the same. On top of that, he's got a no-movement clause looming, which means Minnesota can't just push him around. If he wants to test the market in a few years, he can. If he wants to squeeze every dollar out of the Wild, he can. If he wants to walk away entirely, well, the nuclear option is sitting there, however unlikely it may be. For once, it's not the franchise dictating terms, it's the player. Kaprizov is negotiating from a position of total control, and the Wild know it. But here's the real kicker. While Kaprizov is untouchable, the Wild themselves are anything but stable. To understand why this contract is so critical, you have to look back at Minnesota's recent past. Last season was supposed to be another transitional year, a team hamstrung by buyouts, short on flexibility, and not expected to hang with the West's elite. And yet, they came out flying. Through the first half of the year, the Wild were one of the surprise stories of the NHL, sitting near the top of the Central Division and shocking everyone who thought they'd fade into irrelevance. But then came the injuries. Not just one or two setbacks, an avalanche of bodies hitting the sidelines. Kaprizov himself missed nearly half the season. Joel Eriksson Ek was banged up. Spurgeon, Middleton, Broden, Faber. At one point, it felt like the team was icing an AHL lineup just to survive. The magic disappeared as quickly as it arrived. Minnesota stumbled down the stretch, limped into the playoffs, and were promptly bounced by Vegas in 6 games. Another year, another disappointment, another spring where Wild fans were left asking, when is it finally going to change? And here's where it gets dangerous. Without Kaprizov, there's no reason to believe it ever will. He is the engine, the difference maker, the only player capable of turning this roster from average to dangerous. Take him out, and you don't just lose your best scorer, you lose your identity. That's the nightmare scenario Minnesota faces. And it's why these negotiations aren't just about dollars and years, they're about survival. For all the frustration that comes with another early playoff exit, there's one thing Minnesota fans can hang their hats on. The future looks promising. This isn't a franchise stuck with aging veterans and no plan. It's a team that's quietly built one of the deepest prospect pools in the league. Brock Faber, who stepped in and immediately looked like a top pair defenseman. Marco Rossi, who finally seems to be finding his confidence and signed a team-friendly bridge deal to prove he belongs. Matt Boldy, already showing flashes of becoming a perennial 30-goal scorer, and it doesn't stop there. Jesper Wallstedt, the highly touted Swedish goaltender, is waiting in the wings. Defenseman Liam Ogren and forward Danila Yurov could soon add even more firepower. Add in a few other recent draft picks, and you can see the outline of a contender taking shape. The Wild have the talent pipeline. They have the depth. What they don't have is the superstar who ties it all together. That's Kaprizov. Without him, the kids don't have a leader. Without him, the prospects don't have the safety net that buys them time to grow. And without him, all of this exciting potential might never translate into actual wins. And that's exactly why this situation feels so tense. The Wild might be building for the future, but that future collapses if Kaprizov isn't a part of it. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Does Kaprizov even want to stay? Months ago, he casually mentioned Chicago as a place he'd love to play. At the time, most people brushed it off as negotiation tactics, a throwaway line to spook the Wild into upping their offer. But looking back now, with the benefit of everything that's unfolded, those words carry a lot more weight. Then there are the whispers. General managers around the league reportedly poking around, asking if Minnesota would even consider a trade. Rival teams circling like sharks, smelling blood in the water. Nobody expects the Wild to shop their superstar, but the fact that calls are even being made is enough to send chills through the fan base. Is Kaprizov just pushing for more money? Probably. Is he leveraging outside interest to force Minnesota's hand? Almost certainly. But every rumor, every headline, and every offhand comment plants another seed of doubt. And for Wild fans, doubt is the last thing they need right now, because if there's even a chance Kaprizov wants out, this entire franchise could be staring down a disaster of historic proportions. So what are the options on the table? At this point, there are three clear paths forward. Option 1, Kaprizov follows the Austin Matthews playbook. Sign a shorter deal, maybe 4 years, at around $16 to $18 million per season. This keeps his future flexible, lets him cash in again when the salary cap jumps even higher, and ensures he stays among the top earners in the league. Option 2, he decides that even $16 million isn't enough. He wants to reset the market entirely, pushing closer to $18 or even $19 million annually. With the cap projected to spike, it's not out of the question. And let's be honest, if anyone is worth it, it's him. Option 3, the nightmare scenario. Kaprizov simply refuses to commit long-term to Minnesota. Maybe he angles for a trade, maybe he plays out his current deal and walks to another market when he has the chance. This is the option no one in Minnesota wants to imagine, but it's sitting there, lurking in the background. Realistically, the first two outcomes are far more likely, but even the faint possibility of the third is enough to keep fans awake at night, because if Kaprizov bolts, the Wild aren't just losing their best player, they're losing the one piece that makes everything else work. Let's not sugarcoat this. If Kaprizov leaves, the fallout would be brutal. Financially, sure, the Wild would free up a massive chunk of cap space, but what good is money if there's nobody on the market who can replace him? Players like Kaprizov don't just fall into your lap. They're generational. They're irreplaceable. On the ice, the loss would be catastrophic. Minnesota's offense would crater. Their power play would collapse. Opposing teams would have no reason to fear the Wild in big moments. That spark, that magic, that sense that something could happen at any second, gone. And then there's the emotional impact. This is a franchise that spent decades searching for an identity, for a face of the team that could inspire fans and attract national attention. They finally found it in Kaprizov. Losing him wouldn't just be a roster move, it would be a gut punch to the entire state of hockey. Attendance would dip, morale would sink, and a fan base that's already endured years of playoff heartbreak would be left wondering if they'll ever get to see their team on the biggest stage. That's the nightmare scenario, and it's exactly why the Wild's front office is treating these negotiations like life or death. The good news? Despite all the noise, all the rumors, and all the fear, Minnesota isn't sitting on its hands. The front office has gone on record. They're willing to give Kaprizov whatever he wants. Money, term clauses, whatever it takes. Because they know the truth. This isn't a negotiation they can afford to lose. Reports suggest both sides are still talking, that progress is being made, that maybe, just maybe, a deal is closer than people think. But make no mistake, every day that passes without an agreement agreement feels like a countdown. The pressure mounts, the speculation grows, and the entire hockey world watches, waiting to see how this story ends. Will Minnesota lock up their superstar and finally turn the corner toward contention? Or will they fumble the most important negotiation in franchise history and set themselves back a decade? Either way, the answer is coming soon. At the end of the day, this isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about identity. It's about the Minnesota Wild proving to their fans and to the entire NHL that they can finally hold on to greatness instead of letting it slip away. Kaprizov's decision will define the next era of hockey in Minnesota. If he stays, the Wild's window to contend bursts wide open. If he leaves, the team is right back where it started, searching for answers, chasing ghosts, and trying to convince its fans that better days are ahead. So the question is simple: will Kirill Kaprizov be remembered as the man who built the Wild into a contender, or the superstar who walked away and left a franchise broken? Only time and one pen stroke will tell.